All right. Hi, everybody. We're going to let our guests start to trickle in here. So, as everybody gets settled, if everybody, we love to have people head over to the chat. Make sure you click that you're chatting with everybody, and then just put where you're calling in from today. We always love to see where around the country, where around the world you're all joining us from. It's always amazing to see the vast group of you. Indianapolis. Kim's in Ann Arbor. I knew that. Nevada, Toronto, Kenny Bunk, Long Island. I'm from Long Island originally. Nice to see you. Um, more Toronto, Austin, Texas, Chihuahua, Mexico. Awesome.
Anybody that's not in the frozen,
Y-
the like frozen ice castle here, I'm jealous of you.
Yeah, you get bonus points. Just keep us all warm. Amy in New York, near Ann Arbor. Liz is
There we
near Ann
go.
Arbor. All right. I also went to school in Ann Arbor, so I just learned a lot about me already. Vancouver, British Columbia. All right. We'll give it another minute or so. There's always some people, you know, hoping that nap time was going to go down a little sooner to join or um, ending their Zoom meeting to join this instead. Whatever you're doing to take your time out of your day, first of all, thank you for doing so. We love these and Cape Town, South Africa. Nice.
Very cool.
We're on another continent now. Um, thank you for taking the time. It's these are always super, super fun. I'm going to launch a poll here um, while we're still waiting. Just let us know how old your little one is. It's always good to see what stage you're all at. I suspect I know what's going to win, um, but you
Yeah,
never
could
know.
surprise us. Yep.
Yeah, you never know. You
We
never
might
know.
end up having a toddler discussion instead today. Who knows?
Yeah, it could go in a lot of different ways, and to that point. To Kim's point about the discussion, I have a ton of great questions for Kim, but the real meat of this comes during the Q&A that we save time for at the end. So if you have questions, at the bottom, there's a little Q&A icon. Click that and put your questions there. Try to avoid putting it in the chat because the chat can get crazy with people commenting about how amazing Kim's advice is. So we miss it. But the Q&A, we're able to track it all. You guys can see you're in the boat together. So if 60% of people come in 0 to 6 months, you're in the right spot. 6 to 12 months, we're here for you. It doesn't matter where you are in this journey. And the point of these is really just to like, if your anxiety level feels up here, it's to bring it down to a more manageable level and kind of help you feel great about where your kid is at. Um, Before we go any further, I of course want to introduce Kim Grenowitzki from Solid Starts, who's our feeding specialist, language pathologist, and most importantly, a mom. So now I'm dad. I'm just a dad. I'm just a co-founder of Lalo, but I'm here to just like mediate and bring some personal perspective. But Kim's got great expert advice for you guys, and we do these once a quarter. So this is I don't know how many times we've done it now. It feels like it's been a couple years. So a lot of great information always comes out. And I think that the feedback we've gotten in the past is these are always super helpful in making everybody feel more calm, more zen about starting solids. But quick disclaimer, this is not medical advice. So please, if you have a medical question, you have an extreme situation, we always encourage you to please, 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 please consult your doctor. Okay. Make sure you have someone you trust to go to, not necessarily larger bodies. Um, Please consult your doctor on more medical advice. But we are going to make sure we kick off with the 101. This is the 101, what you need to know to feel confident about starting solids. But before we get started, last thing, because you're all here today, we're also going to have a giveaway at the end. One lucky winner will be announced at the end who I'm going to beef it up. I was told it was a First Bites full kit from Lalo and uh, a 1 year subscription to the Solid Starts app.
And a
We're
solid
actually
starts
going to
book.
and a book. Don't forget the book, which is out now on Amazon anywhere or on their website. Um, we are going to make that either you can get a First Bites full kit or you can upgrade it to the Hook on High Chair. Your choice. Your choice. All right. So first question, Kim, for you, get right into it.
Right.
How do you know you're ready? Like you have a kid. They're coming up on whatever age. Like you're at any age. You haven't started. How do you know your kid is ready versus, just like there's a date, and if you don't start on this date, you're wrong. Like, how do we do it?
Completely. Yeah, I love this question because every baby is a little bit different. And so when it comes to starting solids, what we really want to think about is when your baby developmentally has the skills to be able to be successful doing it. We don't, of course, they give you age ranges for like your baby's going to roll around this time, your baby's going to crawl around this time. But that's the exact same thing when it comes to readiness for solids. Your baby is going to be ready for solids somewhere around 6 months of age. But what I want everyone in this room to remind themselves of, it's not a race. It does not matter if your baby starts at 4 months or if they start at 6 months and 27 days. What matters is that we start solids when they are showing us that their bodies and their brains are ready. So we're looking for three things specifically. We want them to be able to sit with a little bit of help. Now, this does not mean that they need to sit perfectly and never topple over. What this means is that you put them in their high chair and they actually are able to hold their body up. They're not like slouching and falling over. They're able to hold their body up and their head and neck nice and up for like 10, 15 minutes. Again, does not have to be perfect sitting on the floor. You go do the laundry, they sit on the floor, no big deal. They just need to be able to sit with a little bit of help. If you're not getting a high chair, that can also mean just on your lap, like against your body. They can sit on your lap without slouching over and falling down. The second thing we want them to be able to do is when they're sitting, we want them to be able to actually use their hands. Some babies can sit in the high chair just fine, but you'll see that they're using every muscle that they can to stay upright. They're like these little, pieces of wood. And if you give them something to do with their hands, they totally topple over. So if your baby's sitting in the high chair on your lap and you hand them a toy, can they grab that toy and bring it to their mouth? Can they grab that toy and play with it? Or the second they start using their hands, they just totally lose it and they fall over. That just tells us that they need a little bit more time to get a little bit more strong in their core. And the third thing, which is so important and I think is overlooked a lot of times because it's not a motor skill, is interest in food. If you bring your baby to the table and they're like falling asleep, they want to nurse or take a bottle, they're kind of like just disinterested, they're not ready for solids. If you bring them to the table, maybe sitting on your lap, and they are like watching your every move. They are so curious about what's going on. They might even be reaching for your food. You guys have probably all seen those videos of babies at restaurants, like sitting on their parents' lap and they're reaching for the food. That's a baby that's like, ooh, that toy looks fun. I don't know that it's food yet, but I want to put that thing in my mouth. Like, put me in, coach. I want to do this. So, somewhere around 6 months, whether that is, 5 months and one day or just before 7 months, somewhere around 6 months, your baby is going to show all three of those signs, sitting with a little help, using their arms and sitting, bringing stuff to the mouth, and then that interest in food and eating, and then it's go time.
Awesome. So when okay, you recognize that you're ready, but I think that there's a lot on the internet about how to start, like methodology, baby-led weaning, baby-led feeding, purees. There's like all this methodology with first-time parent. You're like, what the hell does this even mean? Sometimes it feels like there are some of these police out there that if you don't start it right, you're doing it wrong and your baby's not going to get into Harvard, whatever it is. How what is your like perspective on methodology or ways to start? Is there a right way and a wrong way?
So, the number one right way to do it is what feels good to you. So, keep that in mind. Number two, the other thing that's important to keep in mind is that we want to be respecting your baby and what your baby can and is interested in doing. So, while I'm going to sit here and tell you that both of my kids did not start with spoon feeding and purees, and that's not something that I would like text my best friend chain and tell them to do. If that's what feels good to you to start, that is completely okay, as long as you are respecting your baby's cues. So, no matter what you do, my recommendation is to let your baby take the lead. So, if you want to start with finger food, great, perfect. The finger food goes on their tray, you let them reach and get it. If you feel more comfortable starting with pureed foods, Great. Load a spoon, put it on their tray, and let them bring the spoon to their mouth. Or spread the puree over their table and just let them get messy in it and they can lick their fingers. If even that doesn't feel comfortable to you, you can load a spoon and give it to your baby. But here's the key: you want to wait for them to lean in, open their mouth, and want to accept the food. All of those strategies are completely fine as long as we're saying, my baby looks interested, they want to participate. This is like a co-experience. It's not just me doing something to my baby. You're on the right track. Now, for those of you that don't want to start directly with finger foods, and again, that's completely fine, the goal is to move on to those as soon as you feel comfortable. And I say this specifically because the research is really clear and it's continuing, this research base is continuing to build, that starting before 9 months is important for oral motor development and acceptance of a variety of textures and flavors. So if you start after 9 months, does that mean that your baby's never going to learn to chew or they're only going to eat applesauce the rest of their life? Heck no. But it could potentially be a little bit more challenging for your baby to pick up those skills. So if you can get yourself feeling comfortable with it, starting by 9 months with things that are not pureed is ideal.
Awesome. And like, I think we typically get a lot of questions about like, my kid isn't eating a lot, or like, and we've had conversation about like, what's the importance of actually gaining nutrition? What's your thoughts on the saying that's out there that's like, food before one is just for fun? Is that true? Is that not true? Like, what's your take on that saying?
It's a nuanced answer, right? Like as everything is, but the internet doesn't like to tell you there's any nuance with anything. When it comes, like when we're actually looking at like, does your baby need solid food for growth during that time? The answer is no. The research actually shows that whether they start with purees or they start with finger foods, they're eating a ton or not, it doesn't necessarily change their iron levels, which all parents know that that's something on the, in the back of your mind all the time. Like, is my baby getting enough iron? I've been told they need a lot of iron. What we know is that that period from 6 to 12 months is a period of learning a new skill. So, learning to eat is just like learning to crawl, to walk, to ride a bike, to catch a ball. It takes time. And some babies are like, food, cool, in, done, like completely on top of it. And they eat a ton from the beginning. Other babies, a little bit more hesitant. They are a little bit slower to get interested. They only have a bite or two. Completely okay. They are practicing and building skill during those 6 months because somewhere in early toddlerhood, around 12 to 18 months, the nutrition from food begins to really matter. So your goal during this time is to help baby get used to being at the table, get exposed to a wide variety of nourishing foods, learn how to feed themselves, learn how to chew and move food around. So then when the nutrition becomes more important, they're like, oh, I got this. Am I an expert by this point? No, but I've learned a whole bunch and I can actually start to eat a wider variety of food. A lot of babies that I know in my life didn't really start swallowing and eating a whole ton until like 15 to 18 months. And those kids are growing and they're going to Harvard, darn it. Like they're
Yeah.
doing great. Like it's
Yeah.
a wide range of normal.
Yeah. I have two kids, very different experiences in starting solids. And, my daughter was super picky and we started with that finger food. And my son, we started with purees and he wasn't so picky and got into it. And now my son is 3 and he's like kind of not that interested. And my daughter's 6 and she's very interested, growing a ton right now. So it's like it changes over time. And I think that like one of the most important things that I've learned from you, Kim, over doing these is the simple reminder that everything is new.
Mhm.
It's like sometimes as parents, we take for granted the things that are second nature to us, but it's a reminder that everything in an infant's mind is miraculous and new and just an experience, to say the least. The first time they put that thing in their mouth and they might gag, it's because, like, what the hell did I just put in my mouth? I've never experienced this texture before. And it may not be because they don't like broccoli.
Yeah, exactly. And like,
Yeah.
been thinking back about those foods that are really highly nutritious that we think about, stuff like nuts and seeds and meats. those things take a lot of skill to manage, like whether it's chewing them or even just tolerating the texture and the flavor. And so we need to give them tons of exposure and practice with them. So they're like, oh, I get this. This kind of makes sense now. It's if we kind of reframe starting solids as a period of learning to eat, as opposed to like,
Yep,
this happens and it's all about learning. If we kind of put that in our head, I think it's easier to take some of the pressure off that like things have to
I
happen a
agree.
certain way.
I agree. Well, you just dropped a word that I think triggers the two biggest anxieties of starting solids. You said nuts,
Mhm.
which may trigger anxiety about choking, and it may trigger anxiety about allergies. So let's talk about those two, which are I'm sure I haven't looked at the Q&A section, so this is your reminder. If you have questions, drop it in the Q&A, not in the chat. Let's talk about because I'm sure there are questions about both of those things already waiting for us. Let's start with choking. Like, can you talk about what choking actually is and
Mhm.
like how afraid of choking should we actually be as parents?
Yep. So, first of all, I want to try to ease everybody's nerves. Choking is very, very rare. I know that the media and the internet want to make us think that it happens every single day. You'll hear statistics like one child chokes and dies every 5 days. And when you actually look back at the data, that is everyone under the age of 18. And even that statistic, and every single child death is a horrific thing that we would love to prevent, of course. But I'm just trying to like put into perspective these numbers. One every 5 days is 72 a year. And again, that's under 18. So this is not just babies. This is not just young children. This is every child under 18. This also includes medically complex children. So we're talking not even just typically developing children. So that's 72 a year, which is less than a half of a percent of the overall death that affects children. So again, every single death I wish we could prevent. But just to put it into perspective, it's less than 1/2%. It really is much more rare than we think. And that leads me to tell you that our bodies are magically designed to protect ourselves. So we all have two tubes in our throat, one for breathing, which goes to our lungs. It's kind of in the front of our throat. And then behind it is the tube for food that goes down to our stomach. So I think this is one of the first like aha moments for a lot of people is choking is not something getting stuck in the food tube. Choking is actually when something gets stuck in the breathing tube. The breathing tube is quite small. It's about the size of a drinking straw in an infant and a young toddler, and it's rigid. So, choking happens when something gets into that tube and we're not able to expel it with a cough. So think like the best visual in my mind is a pistachio. Like you can see like the end of a pistachio is a little bit tapered. It could easily get kind of lodged in the top of a drinking straw, and it would be really tough to get that out. That stops your child from being able to breathe. Now, there are circumstances where something gets lodged in there, but a little bit of breath can come through, but still a cough would be able to push that out. So if your child is coughing, they are not choking. Everyone say that 100 times to yourselves. If they are coughing, they're not choking. Coughing means air is flowing. Coughing is good. There's nothing wrong with coughing. Coughing tells us that the body's saying there's something near my breathing tube. I don't like it. I want to push it out because coughing is air coming out. Now, gagging on the other hand, kind of like Michael, what you were saying earlier, is the body's way of being like, wait, something's different, something's weird, something's not moving the way I expect it. This isn't right. I don't want to swallow it. I don't want to get it in my airway, so I'm going to get it out. When we gag, whether you're a baby or an adult, your breathing tube actually closes. So there's no air flowing when you're gagging. And when we gag, their food tube squeezes up and pushes everything forward and out. So if you're thinking about the difference between what choking would look like versus what gagging would look like, the thing that really helps a lot of the parents we talk to is that choking is a sucking in. They're trying to get air in. A lot of times you'll see some tugging right here, like they're trying to get air in. It's typically silent because they're not able to pass any air and they tend to look terrified. Gagging, on the other hand, many times is loud, but some babies are not that loud when they gag, but you see a forward motion. So the mouth tends to be open, the tongue is in a cupped shape, and you can see that they're trying to get things forward and out. So typically you'll see more of like a look. I mean, you can all think about what you've looked like when you've gagged or thrown up, right? So a lot of times, again, gagging is not necessarily this like super loud thing, but something you can listen for is that after every gag, their airway is going to open briefly for them to take a break. So you'll hear gag, gag, gag if they're gagging multiple times because they are going to take a breath in between. So choking, sucking in air, looking terrified, some tugging here. If it's really to the point where it's a significant problem, they can even have some color change, but let's hope that that's never the case. Gagging, many times loud, cupped tongue, forward motion. Almost every situation you're going to see at the table is going to be gagging.
Yeah. And so gagging is nothing to worry about. It's like a completely natural reflex, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people want to hold off on starting finger foods because they're like, well, I don't want to have to deal with the gagging. Unfortunately, the longer you wait, the more significant the gagging gets because when you start with purees, so their whole lives they've been sucking from a bottle or from a breast. So they bring the milk in, they swallow it. They bring the milk in, they swallow it. When you give them purees from a spoon, they bring the puree in, they swallow it. They bring the puree in, they swallow it. And their brains are like, oh, I understand how to do this. It kind of moves the same way. This all makes sense. Then say they've been practicing that motion for 9, 10 months, however long that is. Then they get a piece of finger food, whether it's a puff or whatever, and that goes on their tongue, and they're like, I can't move this back the same way. What the heck is this? Oh my God. And their body goes, I don't want this. I'm gagging. And then you see that same gagging at that point too. So some babies are super, super gaggy, others are less. Even between my two girls, one was real gaggy to the point of throwing up. The other one gagged like 3 or 4 times and that was it. I can't even picture a food that she gagged on because it just didn't happen that often with her. It's how their bodies are built, it's their sensory systems. Some kids are gaggier than others. Some kids just like very rarely, if never, gag. So it's completely fine no matter where your baby falls.
Yep. Okay. So the other major anxiety around feeding is allergens. Talk to us about like what are the allergens? How do you introduce allergens? And how do you know like you're safe, you're good to go on that front.
Piggybacking off what Michael started with, I am not a pediatric allergist. I have had the incredible opportunity to work with amazingly skilled pediatric allergists in my practice. And so, what I'm sharing with you today is based on what I know generally from learning from Dr. Bajwala and the other allergists that I work with. So, there are 9 common allergens in the United States, and I'm going to say them and hopefully get them all: tree nut, peanut, egg, dairy, sesame, soy. I did this in the wrong order: shellfish, fin fish, and wheat. I did that in or not the same order I normally do it in. It totally screwed me up. But those are our 9 common allergens. Your 3 most common in infants are eggs, dairy, and peanuts. So those are the 3 that we're going to focus on the most. The research has told us that the actually introducing allergens early is preventative of food allergy later. So this research is really compelling, and it's been done on huge swaths of babies. And so it's well known within the pediatrics community that introducing, especially eggs, peanut, and dairy, when you start solids, can decrease your risk of developing food allergy by up to 80%, which is huge. Now, I'm going to talk about high risk babies in a minute, but I just want to stick with the standard risk babies. So when I say introduce early, that doesn't mean you have to get those special powders and stuff. If you want to, fine, but you don't have to. When your baby is showing readiness for solids, you want to start with 1 allergen at a time. Our allergist, again, recommends egg, dairy, or peanut. You start with introducing a small amount at first. So think like 1/8 of a teaspoon. You let them interact with the food. You don't have to force them to swallow it. You just want them, you want to try to get some in their mouth. And if they do, great. If they don't stress about it because forcing it in is going to cause a power struggle that you don't want to do. But you want them to try to get a little bit of that food in. And then you want to wait 15 or 20 minutes. The vast majority of allergic reactions will show up within 20 or so minutes of having the allergen. Now, there is a whole other category of reactions called FPIs, which if we have a second, I'll touch on, but the vast majority of your reactions are going to happen pretty quickly after giving the allergen. Now, if you don't see any signs of an allergic reaction, the next time you give it, you can give a little bit more. So you want to give, say you gave an eighth of a teaspoon the first time, you give a quarter of a teaspoon the next time. You want to do that at least 3 consecutive times. If you're feeling really nervous, do it 3 days in a row. A little bit on Monday, a little on Tuesday, a little on Wednesday. If you're feeling more like, oh, I'm not worried about this, I've got this, do it all in the same day. Completely fine. But you do want them to have at least 3 separate exposures to the allergen so you can confidently say at this point, they're most likely not allergic to that food. Now, we get the question all the time, do we have to do the same food for 3 days? And generally speaking, no. You just want to make sure that you repeat the allergen 3 times. You also
Mm.
don't want to give 2 allergens together for the first time. So, like, don't start introducing peanut butter by mixing it into a dairy based yogurt or a soy based yogurt. You just want to do one allergen at a time. But you could pair the allergen with something that's not. So, say you're introducing peanut and you're doing some little, little smear. I hate that word. I can't believe I even said it. You're giving a little bit of peanut butter and you've thinned it out with some breast milk or water, and they're playing with it. They're tasting a little bit of peanut butter. You could give them a stalk of broccoli, or you could give them some applesauce, or you could give them a mango, something that's not a common allergen to play with or to eat while you're waiting for that reaction. Totally fine. You just don't want to put the two together right at first. High risk babies. If your baby has moderate to severe eczema, and our allergist is actually erring on the side of like anything more than just like the little eczema that most babies get, like behind their knees or in the crooks of their arm. If they have open eczema or they have an existing allergy to another food, the research says that it is actually quite beneficial to introduce egg, peanut, and dairy as early as 4 months of age. If your baby falls into that category, the first thing you need to do right now is talk to your medical provider. Send a message, say, hey, I've heard that early introduction for high risk babies is really important. Can we talk about it? Should I get a referral to an allergist, et cetera? A lot of pediatricians are completely okay with managing that exposure early on. If yours isn't, maybe they'll want you to, have a telehealth visit with an allergist. Either way, it's worth asking about because the research is pretty provocative to say that if we get those allergens started early, and it doesn't have to mean you start all solids. You could just be doing your allergy exposure between 4 and 6 months. It'll significantly decrease your child's risk of developing allergy later. Unfortunately, not every food allergy is preventable. There are always going to be kids with food allergy. That's unfortunately part of our body physiology. But we know that the best we can do is to introduce it early.
Awesome. Okay, I have one more question, and then we have about 10 minutes left, and we'll get to the Q&A. So please, last reminder, get it in there. Um, Talk a little bit about food schedules. Like, how many times a day should we be giving meals, like at the beginning, and then as you like get closer to a year, how much of what's a portion look like? Is there a portion kind of guidance?
So this is another one of those times where I hope I can calm everybody's nerves and say it's just about learning in the beginning, right? So your first couple months, I can even tell you between 6 and 9 months, and I don't even want to call it a meal, one table time a day is totally fine. And that's plenty. They are learning so much. It's overwhelming to figure out all of these things, whether you're spoon feeding or you're giving finger food. One time a day is plenty for the first few months. If you're going on vacation, if you're going to be at grandma's house, if you've just had a really crappy day, it's okay to skip. You do not have to have this perfect schedule where every day at 3 o'clock you do solids with baby. It's totally fine to make it work within your life. In the beginning, food is not there to fill their belly. And if you bring them to the table too hungry, they will probably be frustrated. Even if you're spoon feeding and purees, that in itself is a skill that they have to learn. So coming to the table about 30 to 45 minutes after you've done your milk feed tends to work the best for most babies. They come, they're happy, they're not so full that they're going to gag and throw up, but they aren't hangry, they're ready to go. Around 9 months, 9, 10 months, we're aiming to go to about 2 food exposures a day. At this point, some babies are like, I got this. I'm loving food. I'm even weaning myself off bottles. Like, I'm doing great. Cool, perfect. Give them more time in between their breastfeed bottle feed and their table food. Completely fine to do it. If your baby is still just kind of figuring it out, it's also totally okay to bring them to the table not hungry yet if they really need to like practice and get more used to it. So 2 meals around 9 months. As you're getting closer to a year, that's when you want to try to up it to like the standard breakfast, lunch, dinner routine. In toddlerhood, most kids are having 2 snacks. So they do breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, and dinner. Keep in mind, if you're still bottle or breastfeeding your young toddler, though, those in themselves are snacks. One of the biggest issues that I find with young toddlers that are having picky eating or selective eating things in toddlerhood is that they're getting a ton of breast milk or formula. So they just don't have any desire to eat table food. So if you're still breastfeeding, say you're 14-month-old, consider your breastfeed like a snack. Your body's actually producing much fattier, much more rich milk at that point to meet, like to get closer to meeting your toddler's needs. So even if they're only what you think is snacking for like a minute or two, they may be getting a ton of milk and it's really um, high powered. I don't know what the right word is to use there.
Highly
It's
concentrated.
highly concentrated. So just keep that in mind for those of you that are thinking about extended nursing, or if you're thinking about not weaning off of bottles right at 12 months. So those can serve as snacks, or if you're totally done with bottles and breastfeeding at that point, your snacks are just like mini meals. They don't have to be little things out of, you know, plastic packages that you buy at the grocery store. It can just be a smaller version of whatever you do for a main meal. So it can be
Yeah.
some fruit. It can be like a little bit of pasta. It does not have to be something like we in our heads have perspectives of like what snack food is, but they don't, they're kids. They don't care.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Thank you, Kim. Thank you for answering my questions. Let's get to the questions. And I apologize. Just like always, we likely won't get to all the questions, but I will scan and try to combine uh like questions together so we get to as many of you as possible. Um, can you start if your baby still has some tongue thrust? This from
Yes.
Fiorella.
I love, love, love this question because tongue thrust is a reflex, right? And it goes away in most babies around 4 to 6 months. But the thing to keep in mind that reflexes make motor patterns. So for example, your baby has a reflex in the palm of their hand where you touch it and it grasps your finger. I hope I didn't just take away anybody's like love for their baby holding their hand, but technically that is a reflex. And they have that reflex to learn to grasp things. The tongue thrust is to learn to latch onto a bottle. So that pattern is something they know really, really well because they've been doing it over and over and over and over and over again for 4 months or 5, 6 months. So even if the reflex is gone, that motor pattern of sticking their tongue out is still there. So it's kind of hard to say that they have to have the reflex gone, so to say, because even if the reflex is gone, they're still going to do that with their tongue. Now, the way that they learn to break out of that pattern is to learn to move their tongue side to side. And the way they do that is they stimulate a different reflex, which is on the side of their tongue. And the way they do that is with food, touching the side of their tongue. So this is another one of those things like if you're doing spoon feeding and they have that forward backward pattern, it's probably pretty annoying because they're going to take food and they're just going to spit it right back out. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just not getting any of that food in their belly. Does that
Yeah.
matter? No, but it's messy and it's just, it's not ideal. But if they maybe put the spoon in their own mouth, that's going to stimulate their tongue to the move to the side. And so that's going to help keep the food in. It's going to help build that other motor pattern. You're going to see less of that forward backward movement. I feel like that
Awesome.
was really, really like, I'm sorry if that totally went off topic or.
No, no, it was I'm sure if you answered, you may have answered somebody else's question too, but it was perfect. Okay, so this is from Abby, two separate questions, which sound a little bit, maybe it's two kids, I don't know. If you have a baby that's a super strong, they seem to have a super strong gag reflex. Is there anything you can do to kind of like manage that or navigate that? We'll start there with that one.
Yep. Number one, if they're not self-feeding, if you're holding the spoon out for them and you're seeing that gagging, the first thing is to have them feed themselves because just the control over it can decrease the amount of gagging. Second of all, my favorite, and I can't say it enough, thing to do for extreme gagging and gagging to the point of throwing up is food teethers. So think things that they're not going to bite through. They're not going to actually get any food in their belly. The whole point of these is to help their brain figure out what's going on in the inside of their mouth. We like to call it mapping the mouth. So they can't see what's going on in their mouth. But when you have something long and firm and that's giving tons of pressure to the inside of their mouth, their brain's like, oh, that's where that is. Oh, that's where that is. It's helping them learn the dimensions of their mouth. So think things like a mango pit. So like cut all the fruit off the mango and just give them the core of it. I also love a long strip of steak that they can't bite through, a rib with the meat pulled off. We've got a great article on our website with tons of examples, but you're thinking of something that's firm and hard. And if that makes you feel nervous, even just a spoon can be fine. But giving them something that they're able to move around their mouth and get lots of pressure and touch input to their cheeks and their tongue and their gums, that can really help decrease that gagging.
Awesome. And then what about kids that are kind of seem to be like stuffing their face, like they're just like taking a lot of food at once? Is that it?
Yep.
Does that
Same
increase risk of choking or anything?
So, same exact answer for helping with that, too. Overstuffing is a phase. Almost every kid goes through it, but stuffing tends to happen because they're not so sure where everything is in the inside of their mouth. So, if we start helping them learn where their cheeks are, where their tongue is, etc., then they tend to stuff less. Also, just the act of stuffing helps them stuff less because the stuffing itself is helping their brain connect to their mouth so they can figure out how to move things around. Does that increase the risk of choking? Based on the data, we don't see a correlation between those two things. But the feeding therapist in me says if they have a whole bunch of food in their mouth, they're probably not going to be able to control moving it around really well. Would that increase the risk that something's going to not go right? Probably. But can I tell you from like an exact, like a yes, for sure, this is a risk? No. But if they have a whole mouthful of mini marshmallows, I would be worried about something not going well with that. If they have a whole mouth full of like soft apple, not as worried.
Yeah. Okay. This is from Stephanie. You made a comment that like for high risk babies start as early as 4 months. Is there any harm in starting any baby at 4 months?
If you want to go for it. Dr. Bajwala has said that she's like, I can't say for sure, but I believe that we're probably going to move towards all babies having allergen exposure, especially again to egg, peanut, and dairy at 4 months. As long as you don't mind dealing with the mess and dealing with the poop changes and all that stuff, yeah, no harm in doing it.
All right. Yeah, that poop changed, man.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's when you know they're actually swallowing food. You're like, oh, the poop is
yes.
so
Yeah.
no good anymore.
That yeah, it changes real fast. Okay. From Jessica. What are your thoughts on puffs?
Mhm. If you wanna give them, that's fine. My how do I say this? I worry about puffs because puffs are given as something that helps your baby learn to chew, and that's simply not the case. They are placed in the mouth, whether it's on the tongue or whatever, but they're not stimulating those reflexes that we need to learn to actually build chewing skills. So there's a lot of chatter out there, especially in sadly the feeding therapy community and the medical community about using puffs to learn to chew, but like that just doesn't compute because how we learn to chew is not on small meltable sticky items.
Yep.
My other concern about puffs is that if they've been open they get really gummy and they're actually way more risky in my opinion than nice fresh ones. So if you're going to give them because you want to have something to give them to do while they're sitting at the table,
Convenience. Yeah.
can be 100% like you're going out to dinner and you're sitting with them and you just want them to give you 5 minutes so you can order a glass of wine, cool, perfect. But just I would recommend not, keeping a container open for a long time because they do get stale pretty quickly, and that can make them really, really tough to handle.
Yeah. Okay. I think we have time for like two or three more. Let me try to comb through here. Um, any food that should absolutely be avoided before 1 year
Yep.
old?
Yep, honey is your number one. Honey has a increased risk of carrying botulism spores, which can cause a very life-threatening, scary illness called infant botulism. So we avoid honey or any items that have honey in them until around 1 year. That is also including things that have honey baked into it because the spores are very heat resistant. So we completely avoid honey. I would also recommend avoiding things that have very low nutritional value and are very high choking risk. So things like bubblegum, hard candy, marshmallows, stuff that there's like no necessary reason your baby needs it, even to like share in a family gathering. You can share without giving them a piece of hard candy, right? Um, there's a lot of talk, of course, about salt and sugar. This is such a loaded topic that we could talk all day about it, but just know that the research does not show exposing your baby to normal amounts of either of those things is dangerous for them. If they drank an entire bottle of soy sauce, that would be a problem in terms of sodium. But having something that has a little bit of salt in it because you've made a family meal and you've shared some is safe. You can, of course, choose to salt your food after giving it to your baby, which is totally fine. But know that if you share something with them that has a little bit of sugar, that has a little bit of salt, please know that you have not broken them. They're going to be fine. They're not going to be addicted to sugar later or salt.
Um, okay, two more. Time for two more. Um, Man, so many good ones. I think a lot of the questions here we have covered some, so apologies if I end up skipping yours. Um, I think like one thing that I'm seeing here, actually, I'd love for you to demystify something because I think that like there's a lot of mention in the questions about baby-led weaning.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked a little bit about the methods and baby-led weaning and purees. And it's like to me, like I would almost like us to talk one second about like removing the names from these things.
Mm-hmm.
You're just starting to feed your kid, right? And there's finger foods and purees, but like it's not methods. It's just comfort. Like combinations, like you don't I want to destigmatize for a second like the idea of like these the combinate like I need a balance of one or the other. It's like can you talk
Yeah.
about like getting because we have a bunch of questions here. Like I'm doing a little bit of purees and a little bit of baby-led
Yeah.
weaning,
Yeah.
but like baby-led weaning's not the thing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the internet has created baby led weaning into something that's like only finger foods and no purees. I had a puree for breakfast this morning. I had yogurt. I don't know about any of you, but like we as adults eat sauces and soups and yogurt and hummus and dips and you name it. We all eat pureed food. So it's not like it's just silly to me that that's the direction we went in. And if you get this book out, which was like the one that started it all, and you actually look at what Jill Rapley defines as baby led weaning, it's letting your baby take the lead. Baby led weaning. So the idea is that you are giving baby control because we give babies control of all their other developmental milestones. But for some reason, with starting solids, we decide that we have to do it to them. So the theory is just that we are letting your baby guide the experience. Now, again, like I was talking about, I don't care what food's on their tray. We're just letting them take the lead. You are letting them put the food in their mouth. You are letting them hold on to the spoon. You are letting them put the puree in their mouth. You're letting them wait and open their mouth. Like we're just getting rid of the here comes the airplane, force the food in. That has its own, links to diet culture and blah, blah. I'm a millennial, so this was like something that I, of course, grew up with, right? But if I can change anything in this world when it comes to baby feeding, it's not about purees, baby led weaning. It's just listening to what your baby is telling us
Right.
and letting
Yep.
them do it. If
Yep.
does that help people a little bit? Like,
Yeah, I think it's the idea that they're not mutually exclusive,
yeah.
right? You don't do purees or baby-led weaning. The concept, and this helped me a lot through the time, and just it's like, yeah, your baby can be a part of it, and it's all the things you've talked about. Like most of their nutrition is still coming through their milk or their formula. They're they're not like until after like these all of they're learning over time that it's not this like rigid structure around it because that rigid structure, another name for that rigid structure is the anxiety we had entering this call. Now,
Totally.
hopefully, we've broken down the barriers for all of you to let you say, oh, it's not so black and white. It's not, so binary in the way that we approach this important learning and milestone um, of having a baby. And it can be a little bit more exciting and a little bit more stress-free and definitely no less messy. It's
No.
still going to be messy. It's still going to be
Yeah.
messy.
And you just kind of alluded to this, but this is supposed to be like one of those moments that you have pictures of and you remember and you think of this fondly one day. And
Oh, yeah.
like coming to the table with vibes of like this is going to be really fun and exciting and I want to share this with my kid as opposed to like okay I've made the exact perfect food and I have the perfect spoon and I have the perfect thing and everything's going to be perfect and I totally understand how people come to it with that. But and we didn't even get to touch on this, but like I feel like this is a good place to end it. Like Michael has asked me lots of times, like, what is the best first food? And I think,
That was my last question,
oh,
so you
good.
got it.
Okay. So we're here. Like, there is no best first food because the best first food is the one that is important to you. So, I lived in California my whole life before moving to Michigan. And I had my first baby during the pandemic, and so did Michael. Like, right? Your son's
Yep.
2020, right?
2020. My daughter, yeah.
Oh, sorry. And it was just I was working in the hospital at the time. It was such a weird time. Like it was just a very, very strange time to be pregnant. And the first time I felt my daughter move, it was like the first time that I was like, oh my God, I'm actually pregnant. Like this is a thing. I was eating pineapple. And so the first food that we exposed her to was pineapple. Cause for me, it just like pulled everything full circle. My husband and I had gotten married in Hawaii. I have a lot of family ties to the islands. It just felt really emotionally special and right for me. My second daughter, we had just moved to the Midwest from California. I was really, really, really missing just like my California roots. And her first meal was Taco Tuesday, which was something we always did in California. Like I choke up thinking about it because it was a really just beautiful moment of bringing her into something that was really important for us and our family. So if you can think of some sort of food that means something to you, whether that's like a stew your grandma made or like a special something special that's meaningful that you want to share with them. A coworker of mine when she became a grandma decided that she was going to give all of her grandkids ice cream for their first food, so she like let them taste ice cream on her finger, and it was like this really special grandma moment for her. If there's something that you can like put in your Rolodex of like that just feels really special to me and my family, like that would be an amazing first food.
Love that. Well, thank you, Kim, as always, for giving such wise, sage advice. I've been looking at the comments a little bit, and it seems like so many people got amazing insight from you throughout this, as always, and as expected. And just a reminder, if you're looking for more tips, you can always subscribe to Solid Starts or follow them on Instagram. They've got a lot of great tips on, making going beyond the 101, right? This is your intro. They'll get you to
Yeah.
the more advanced courses, and they have resources and they have their book now. So like I definitely encourage you there. And of course at Lalo, we make, products that you're proud to own throughout your family home, ranging from our mealtime stuff, but we got bath time and playtime stuff too. And most
My 5 year
importantly,
old uses the bento box to take to lunch now every day.
it's awesome. Yeah, same. My kids are full on bento every day. And actually, this is weird, but because it's a little easier for them to open, we find they eat more than when we had a different one before we launched that one. So
Totally
maybe.
makes sense.
Um, Also, fun fact, we are launching 4 products in 4 weeks. You're the first group that knows this outside of our team at Lalo, starting at the end of February. So be on the lookout. It's going to be our most products ever dropped in a short amount of time. We're expanding like wildfire across new product categories. So please keep an eye out for that in your emails and your text messages. Got a lot coming. But without further ado, I did want to announce the winner of the giveaway. So I just need to do a check that they're here. And if I announce your name, click that raise hand button to confirm, and our team will be in touch. The winner is Katie McGill. So if Katie is here, which she might not, she may have dropped. I have a backup. We'll give her another second. Um, all
And
right. It looks like oh, yeah, go for it, Kim.
just say while Michael's pulling the other person, if any of your questions were not answered, please feel free to send us a DM, send us an email. We have an incredible customer support team that is led by a feeding therapist, and we will answer any of your questions, direct you to the resources. We've got, like Michael said, tons of free articles and things on the website, but we know that there's so many questions out there that are hard to get answers to. So please send us a DM. We answer 100% of our DMs. I'm not kidding. Or
Yeah,
an email. We are there for you.
likewise. Um, Okay, it's just not managed by a feeding therapist like theirs is, but we will answer you if you get in touch with us with product specialists. Okay, um, the backup winner, the real winner now is Caitlin McAllister. So if you can hit the raise hand button, just confirm that you're here, Caitlin. I hope we don't have to go to third. Yay, Caitlin. Okay, Missy from our team will be in touch with you. so you can claim your prize. Um, Kim tried to win too by hitting the raise hand. Talking about reflexes too much. Kim's like,
Yep, yep.
I want to
I
win.
just, I just
It
want
was
some more bento boxes.
Yeah, we can make that happen. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be back next quarter with one of these. So if you have friends right behind you in this stage, or you want to just hang with me and Kim again, please come back. And if there's ever stuff you want to see from us, you're curious about potty training, sleep training, whatever, like weird anxiety, not weird, but like whatever's keeping you up at night, because I've been there too. My wife has been there. I'm sure Kim's been there. Like, please that's a great thing to DM or message us about. We want to do more of these and bring in more experts just like Kim to kind of help you guys get through all of your parental anxieties, not just
Just,
feeding.
just got some potty training of votes. Bye,
It will happen. And there might be a wink wink, a reason that we have to cover that. All right. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.
everybody.